question, why doesn't Google like me? And many of you, and we have quite a few that signed up for this webinar, and it's telling, right? Because it can feel like, gosh, I've done everything possible. Why doesn't Google like my website? And here I'm looking at my competitors, and they're dominating seemingly for every search term imaginable. So what gives, right? And here's some questions that I often, as part of this session, I offer a complimentary consultation at the end, and many of you guys take us up on that. And I'll ask some questions like, do we have a targeted SEO list, and is that list mapped to proper pages on the website? And often, many folks don't have that, right? And so then I'll ask questions like, well, if we haven't done that, then it's no wonder that we're not doing better, because at the end of the day, Google is a text reader, right? They read a page much like you and I do, top to bottom, left to right. And if we don't put our best foot forward, that is, do we have keywords that we care about, and are they written physically on that web page? And if not, then it's no wonder we're not doing better. And you'd be surprised at the types of companies that haven't done this well. And and I'll ask them, so if you were to grade yourself, A to F from an SEO savvy perspective, what would you give yourself? And those who really fancy themselves as, hey, we really got it down pat, and then I'll look at the basic blocking and tackling, like, all right, so as I look at some of the keywords that you care about, and I look at the page that you're targeting, we don't even mention it at all anywhere within the content. So put yourself in Google's shoes. They index that page, and by index I mean they visit it, they read it, and they don't see it, and then we're hoping to do better. And it's just, there's just misaligned expectations there, right? And so with that, then ask yourself another question. Well, does my content align with these mapped keywords? And this is of course assuming that you have your keywords right. And then people start asking questions. Well, when you say my target keywords, what do you mean? Often with SEO, you should have a short list of terms that you really care about, and they should be a mixture of competitive keywords, longer tail keywords, really descriptive problem-based keywords, and we'll talk a little bit about kind of keyword selection and how many to go after and that type of thing. But often in campaigns that we run for you folks, we're going out after anywhere from 50 to 100 target core keywords, and we've mapped those terms to the right pages of the site, and then you do the content gap analysis, and you kind of the order of operations stems from there. So then as you ask that second question, okay, does my content align with these mapped keywords? Then we start to go into, all right, if I've done everything that I can from what we call on-page on your website that you can do, then you go into, all right, now I need to get people to reference my website. And that's often another sticking point for a lot of folks. They don't have the resources or time or energy or expertise to then ask websites to link to them. And these days that equation really hinges on whether or not you have quality content that people are willing to actively link to, right? And asking yourself a question like, would I link to myself with the type of content that I'm building today? And often, that the answer is no, right? Because you don't have the time or expertise or that type of thing. And then finally, can you track your SEO, the terms, your visibility that you're investing time, effort, and resources into to revenue? And again, this is more from a B2B standpoint, and again, a lot of folks don't have that capability, right? Because it's a long sales cycle, or there's a lot of other reasons why you haven't done that yet. And if you've said no to any of these questions, this is probably some of the reasons why we have this perception that Google doesn't like you, right? Because we haven't kind of gone through this order of operations in the order that we've been doing it for years and years to help people get kind of better progress out of their SEO.